Alright everybody, here is the video that I've been talking about for weeks now. Finally giving you guys the farm tour. I just rolled up at the farm. We have a little bit of a break of class. So you're going to be able to see people doing some work. This will probably be one of the lengthier videos to watch, but it'll give you a whole rundown of maybe some peppered theology of what we've been learning here, but also really just give you guys a tour. So we're going to start right here with the Tonga. That's the building behind us. It's a modified building that's pretty popular architectural structure in Tonga. It's our classroom. There's not much to see in there right now. People are having a conversation anyway. So that's that. And yeah, we call this the table. This is where a lot of the planning and talking about the day and chores and everything happens. There's always nice big boards. We've got Sue over here. She's on our hospitality team. Makes some really awesome and wonderful foodstuffs for us, ranging from pig and soursop, and they go all out when they do hospitality, which is phenomenal. This is not uncommon to find. We just have fruit everything for us during our break times. We could do some of these projects. Here is actually a mortar-based wash basin or sink that our team has been making. So this last week we've been doing 3 different projects. So we've been making these up and getting them ready for display. And we've been doing some hand pumps. We've been making various hand pumps or water pumps. The Roost pump is what it's called. It's pretty cool stuff. We'll maybe do a demonstration of that later. This actually here is a tippy tap. Very, very simple technology, but if you think if women are carrying 40 pounds of water on their head for an average of 6 kilometers in villages, then water becomes a pretty scarce and valuable item. And so things like sanitation, which are important to keep diarrhea and other illnesses away, but if you're using that water just to wash your hands, it's kind of a cultural difficulty. So a tippy tap actually allows you to fill that with water. It actually gives you this little thing down here, so you would be able to step on this and it would pour the water out. This one's empty, but very simple things like this are items that we're learning that make a big difference in villages. Here's another mortar item here. This is actually our little squatty, our little toilet here. Pretty cool design, pretty simple, nice mortar mix for that. Then we're going to move on over to, that's our tool shed. You might hear some kittens. We found some kittens, so we've been raising those lately. Here's kind of our planting area, planting. Lots of seedlings.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Here's the rest of the crew. There goes Nate. And anyway, so I've got, let's see, I got some lemon balm growing. This one here is lemon balm. I've got toothache plant, and others are doing basil and all sorts of other plants. And eventually these will go into our garden beds, which we'll see later. And then you can move into the area that we call propagation. So once they go from here or the nursery area, we go ahead and allow them to step up into another plant or another planter so they can get bigger. Ben, who's our teacher, has been doing quite a bit. He's getting a lot of trees and other larger plants going. He's had a project for a while now called the food forest, which we're about to enter into. I think there's over 110 edible species of plant in the food forest, and he knows them all and knows how to take care of them. It's very nutrient dense way of thinking about how to use your land. It's not just gardening. We can actually think about gardening in a tree sense and create areas or designated areas where biodiversity is rich, right? A lot of diversity. And here's a nugget, right? I think you look at God who created, he created a vast amount of diversity from people and cultures and climates and animals and things like this. And so there's something to be said about growing things in diversity, right? Even when you're making a team for business purposes and entrepreneurs, you want a diverse team. You want multiple skills, and even think about justice issues. We're talking about the need for ethnic quotas in things, right? We long for diversity in the things that we see, and yet God is the one who created things in balance with diversity. And so it's really awesome how the farm and God's creation even teaches us some of the longing of things that are healthy, right? And anyway, so I'm sure I'll write a blog post about that. This is the pallet shed, made all by pallets, which is pretty cool. We actually have something called IMO in here, which is indigenous microorganisms. So we've been growing organisms. We essentially caught some wild organisms by creating kind of an attractive substance, and we stepped it up in a jar, and then now, I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see, but under that pile there, if I can make my finger work, there you go, we're actually raising organisms that are going to be healthy for our garden beds. So we step it up each time. It's pretty cool, and it smells so good. It's very like yeasty, and anyway, I love flipping that pile because it smells so good. We're now entering into the food forest. I'll kind of give you guys, you know, there's a path in through here, and it winds around. You know, pretty crazy. Here's some soursop tree. We get soursop all the time. Got banana over here. Bananas are everywhere, really. Lemongrass. There's a lot of things that are in here. We even have mulberry, so mulberry trees can grow in this climate. We're technically zone 11, I believe, where we're at. We're at, essentially, you would, if you want to know what we can grow here, it would be 300 feet above sea level in Kona. So it's, I don't know if it's semi-tropical, but obviously citruses and things like this we can grow a lot of. I don't even know what these are. Under those tarps, which I just found out the other day, are beehives that are not operational. So I'm kind of thinking that I might talk to Ben, who, by the way, I jokingly call Rabbi Ben Hamin. So if I ever slip and say Rabbi, he's not Jewish. It's just a joke because he's our teacher. But I might talk to him about getting those things operational. We have other legume plants in here. Legumes are pretty awesome because they create, their roots create a symbiotic relationship with a bacteria that fixes nitrogen. So it puts nitrogen into the soil, which is really healthy for plants. And so this is, again, one of those diversity sort of things, kind of different plants utilize different things that help other plants and help soil retention and help soil health. This is sugarcane all behind me. Probably won't be harvested this quarter, but maybe next. Got jackfruit over there. This just keeps going, by the way. Like we're just walking through this wonderful food forest. Everything you see in here pretty much will serve some sort of food purpose. Bananas, more lemongrass. We're gonna cut this way. We could go out that way there, but I'm gonna take you guys to the chickens and the ducks, and rabbits. They used to raise quail here, but one rat got in and killed them all. So they're kind of difficult. So that was the quail shed there, and we've got some, I don't know if you can see any chickens and ducks. There's some ducks. We started with 3. Actually, there was 0 when we got here originally. And then in the last month, we've got 3. And then just this last week, we got 3 more, I think. So now we have 6 ducks chilling out with all the chickens. We have some really cool stuff. You can just different water tank filtration systems. This is used to feed and water ducks and all the animals, I guess. We're gonna enter into the chicken coop, which is really awesome. This place doesn't smell that much. We got some rabbits. I think there are 3, 4 in here, and we have 1 extra one out there. But this is the chicken coop. Pretty cool stuff. Very innovative things. One of my favorite is this thing to water the chickens. They actually use like a toilet pump. So they can stick their heads in there and peck out some water. But if we dump water out, this is just going to go ahead and refill itself, just like it works when you flush a toilet. So that's pretty cool. It doesn't smell in here, by the way. We create something called lactic acid bacteria, or LAB. It's an all-natural substance, and what it does is it creates a bacteria that overwhelms the bacteria that causes odor. So you can actually spray this in pig pens and in chicken coops and stuff, and all the bacteria that would be causing odor actually isn't allowed to thrive, and therefore your odor is reduced, which is pretty phenomenal. All right, find a way to get out of here and enter into the gardens. So each student is given a garden bed, which is, we're not graded on it, but if we're going to be learning about soil nutrition and plant deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies in plants, it's good to actually practice it. So right now we have this wonderful pumpkin that's going absolutely crazy. Some of these beds aren't even ours right now, so the ones that are being used by students are the ones that have these white tarps over them. We call that integrated pest management, IPM. So it's just part of making sure that pests are staying out. Here's a gecko. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see him. He's this little guy moving around. Anyway, that's not even my bed. So here's my garden bed for all those, let's see, all those Star Wars lovers out there. I intentionally chose the bed that is R2B2, close enough, right? So they're numbered so we know where everything's at. But I've got some radishes in here currently. On the back end I've got ginger. I'm going to go ahead and put the toothache plant and lemon balm in here. I do have 2 plants of licorice growing. I've been growing things that I want to be able to use as flavoring later, because I've been making kombucha and things like this. So I'm trying to grow things that make sense, and it's pretty easy and pretty fun. Kittens are over there, but they're kind of inaccessible. We've got Nate. I think he's putting up some trellises for, what are you growing?
This is for my garden bed. Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna make trellises for cucumbers?
For cucumber and tomato.
All right. So he's growing up. I'm growing down with ginger and everything. So lots of stuff. And that's just bamboo that is here on the island. Pretty awesome. Now we're gonna go ahead and move. There's actually a worm bin somewhere over here. There it is. That's vermiculture. So we actually are raising a bunch of worms, and they're not just doing normal composting. We add no dirt. If I were to open that up and you see all the dirt in there, it's actually all just worm poop, which is pretty awesome. We'll take a break and say hello to Anna Grace. What's Anna Grace learning and doing?
I am working on a project right now to start a small farm in Puerto Rico. So I was reaching out to some contacts there to get more details on culture, location, finances, like water availability for irrigation type stuff. So
that's pretty dope.
Yeah, super fun.
Well, here's the deal. You guys won't be able to walk with Anna Grace as much as I do, so I'll follow up with her on some of that stuff. If you're interested in Costa Rica and that project, we'll include it in a fresh find sometime later. If you want to support Anna Grace, then we'll find a way to do that as well. So keep this in mind. There it is. She'll see you in the background again. Another item that we're doing here on the farm is eliminating, if you're in a situation where you're in inner city or you have limited space, or for that matter, if you're a refugee status, if there's disaster or anything like this, you can use found material, and if you're limited on space, you can begin to grow things up. And so you can see on these, they're all just empty containers of sorts. The watering system actually starts at the top and then just drips on down. And so this bottle garden is a good example of how to use your space efficiently. There's another version you can see with just the gallon jugs, or the big jug over there, and pallets. The wicking buckets, which are pretty cool. Actually, underneath these buckets, there is at the very bottom, which I can just show you, is like this little sock or bulb, and then that just sits down in a gutter. And so the water actually goes in through the gutter system, and then each one of these buckets has one of those little wicking socks on the bottom, and it's drawing the water up from the bottom in order to provide the nutrients. Or water. Just different ways to do gardening, I guess, especially if you're limited on space or want to be creative. Now we're moving towards the toilet, and yeah, I will show you the toilet. Oh, and let me ask, do you guys mind being on a video?
No, not at all.
All right, so two of my most recent and newest people.
Hello.
So it's cool because this guy's name is Jedediah,
Yeah.
but he goes by Jedi. And I met them on May the 4th, which just completed my whole experience of that day. And then Talia here. So there they are. They're flipping some of our compost bins.
Yeah.
Did they teach you anything about the compost?
A little bit.
Hot compost?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is hot compost.
Teachable.
Oh, you want us to go?
Yeah, teach
So hot compost is basically what we use at the base because it's faster. So inside, like in the center, it gets up to like 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So it kills all of like the weeds, but it also leaves room for a lot of microorganisms and bacteria to eat up all of the food that's in there. And it basically creates like this oven of compost in the center. So you have to flip it so that it can air out and so that the organisms can eat the outside.
Yeah. And then in about 9 weeks, you'll get compost. I think they have a compost, like a finished product pile over there.
Yeah.
Used for soiling and stuff.
Look at
It's
that.
basically just super rich dirt.
Yeah. Okay. So today's the 6th. They started on the 4th, and listen to that beautiful explanation of hot compost. This is the YWAM, right? Do first, then teach. And they just learned, and now they're already teaching. So I hope you guys are enriched by that. And I want to give a little bit of context for you guys. Give like your 30-second to 1-minute pitch for why you're here, where you're from, and what you're doing.
Cal.
We are here because our ultimate goal is to be on missions over in Southeast Asia, and so to have like actual skills to take there instead of just coming up and being like, hey, Jesus. So being able to, actually sow into the people there first. But we're also here because my parents have worked here for a little while, and they're like, yo, farm needs help. So, yeah.
We love Hawaii. We love Kona. This is my first time here, so learning the ropes, and I'm pretty mind blown. So
Cool.
it's awesome.
Shameless plugs there. Circuit riders who are going to go to the nations, learning some practical skills, which is just an amazing opportunity for them to be here. And it means we get to flip less compost piles because they'll do it. So, well, thank you guys. We're going to continue with our tour into the bathroom. Our wonderfully made bathroom, all out of bamboo here. This is a dry composting toilet. So you just, poop and pee into it, and you throw in some sawdust or some chips or whatever. What's really cool is then you also have the urinal just made out of that gallon jug there. So this actually does divert if you're a dude taking a leak. Then you don't even need to use the main one. You can just use that little diverter there, and you can collect the pee and poop. And on the back, you would see that the doors to the shed, the accesses where all that goes, is black. And that's to help collect the heat, and it makes it hot, so it kills a lot of the bacteria and increases that compost speed. And over time, you can go back there and just shovel it out and use it in your garden. It's gross, but ultimately that's adding nice, rich, organic material. And now we're going to enter into one of my favorite areas, which is aquaponics. I think this is totally cool. So now we're entering Aquaponics world. It kind of feels like a theme park. But hello. Do you want to be in or not in a video? Not in. All right. I'm going to avoid some. So we're going to go move on through here. You can see different varieties of aquaponics systems. We're not using this one right now, so don't judge our capacities by this, but it's pretty cool. It does spin, allows you to grow up, has the water systems down there. And there are a few over here. They're named different things based on the material they're used or how they're designed. For example, we'll zoom in on this Nepal tank. This is kind of a small model. It was designed to be used in Nepal. And you can see that you have your grow beds here. These are actually floating on water. And then you have another system up here that is using, these are like terracotta balls that they're growing in. That's the medium that they're growing in. But then this is all fed through a water system that includes down here, I'm not even sure if you'd be able to see, but there are fish in here. And so we feed the fish are eating, the fish are pooping, but they're also making their water not very breathable for themselves because they're in this closed environment. And so the roots of the system, or the roots of the plants, kind of complete that loop. So they're actually filtrating the water, but also taking the nutrients that the fish are pooping out. And so it's a pretty symbiotic relationship with the two. You get to grow food, and then when the fish are big enough, you can harvest the fish. So you're getting two food sources from this pretty amazing system. And it's scalable, as you'll see. We have multiple beds. We have these long beds here, A, B, C, and D, that are all the same length. To kind of give you an overview right here. So you can just see all of these beds are growing the lettuce. We're growing somewhere right now, based on the capacity of the base of the students, we're somewhere between 80 and 90% of the lettuce that they're eating for this quarter is actually being produced here through these aquaponics systems, which is pretty incredible. We do some A/B testing and different varieties. This is essentially everything at the farm is a research, is based for research and production. So we actually just got these 9 bins up. There's these 3, those 3, and that 3, which is why we call it the 9 bin. And they have just 1 bin with some fish in it. And this is allowing us to do some side-by-side comparisons. What is growing well, what isn't growing well. If we feed the fish this food or that food, we can kind of see the effects of what's happening. And yeah, here's another one. This is another tank, just another type of concrete tank that's holding fish. We even have an A/B test lab here for more fish, and you can change their feed. Move all the way around. You might be able to see this. We had a fish that gave birth to a bunch of babies. I'm not sure if you can see all those little small fish in there. But propagation is part of life. So this is our main tank. It has lots of fish in there. Anyway, so this is aquaponics. I love it down here. I love feeding the fish. Yeah, I'm gonna move over to pigs, and we're gonna start wrapping some things up, but you can just see the variety of aquaponics systems that you can create. This is a sand garden. That one, the media is just sand. You got this little guy there. They're all just slightly variations of the same concept, which is awesome because it makes it accessible and changeable based on your context. So it's good for backyard gardeners, but it's also good for development situations and things like this. We've got Rick's World over there, which is kind of like the metal smith in, throw some sparks tank. So a lot of really awesome things are created over there. We just had a student who was finishing up his internship, and he actually just graduated. So he has like an associate's in something. I don't really remember what, but on the community end. These guys here, where are they? There. Those, they're not moving right now. They're probably locked up, but there's also no wind. They are just winds, kind of wind turbines. So when those are placed up high, we can generate some passive electricity, either to power anything really, power what we want. We kind of have a partnership with Water for Life. So they're clearing this area out. So you can see these are biosand filters over here, just various designs. And our team has been working on this guy over there. That is just a mini water tank. So we built that over the last 2 days. Just making water catchment systems and talking about water purification and things like this. Pretty awesome. And there are sheep. They're way up the hill. Someone else kind of manages them, and we have a little baby one that we gotta nurse with a bottle and things like this. This is Bob's box. Just has tools in it. We'll let you see Fernando. He's the one male pig we permit to live. All the rest are females. And all the pigs here were originally, this all started from catching a wild pig here on the island. They are kind of a nuisance. So there's Fernando. It's not feeding time, but he's getting a little anxious. But anyway, there's that pig. You can see down over there, that whole space there is kind of the piggery. And there's pigs over there. But you know what? What's interesting is I'm really tackled with this idea that a lot of people, you know, when you go to one end of the farming world or kind of the holistic living, you kind of end up at the hippy dippy end. You know, you get the stereotypical tree huggers and you know, all this kind of stuff. And the mentality on that end is like, hey, you know, mankind is just a scourge of the earth. We're just thieves. We're just always taking from the land and giving nothing back. And like, so you kind of, that paints mankind with a bit of a thief, like we're thieves. And then some would even say, okay, but we're stewards, right? We're called to take care of the earth. And scripture, you know, says things like stewardship. But you also see Jesus talking about parables that say the hired hand, right? The hired hand of the steward, in many cases actually caused problems to the farmers, right? The ones who were hired to take over the vineyard, right? Try to steal it from the master and stuff like this. And so I'm leaning more and more towards, like, I believe in stewardship at that core. But to go one step further is we're actually heirs, right? Like God placed us in the garden to maintain it like it was ours. We got to cooperate with God, and the nations are our inheritance. And so in those three categories, you have thieves, you know, stewards or hired hands, and then you have heirs. And the theology of this and the theology of our relationship with the land and creation is something that's kind of lost in the church big C, but it's really profound. Even things like the idea that, you know, life and death are in the hand of the gardener, right? There are many things we call weeds simply because of the things that we don't want. And yet if we permitted them to grow, they're actually part of a family that's a plant that's beneficial. And so we make these decisions, right? Ultimately, farmers make triage decisions on what lives and what dies. And the implications of that are pretty profound theologically. And so I'm sure I'll write some blog posts about it, but I mentioned that because, you know, we did kill a pig, you know, a couple of days ago or last week because it was livestock week, and, you know, we learned all about what that's like, and I'm sure I'll write about that experience someday. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. We'll see about it later. Here is actually a black soldier fly operation. So up in those nets there are hundreds and hundreds of black flies, black soldier flies. They don't bite, they don't cause much harm to plants or anything, but they propagate very quickly, and their growth in their larvae stage right before they pupate is crazy. So they started with I don't know how many eggs, and the guy who was overseeing all this, Terry, he had done something where he like measured the weight from start to finish, and it was like they ended up getting like 18 pounds of the larva just from a few teaspoons or tablespoons of these eggs. And if you were to equate that growth in over 3 weeks to like a human, the growth is like if you had a 7-pound baby, if you did the same growth as the black larva, or black soldier fly larva, you'd be like a couple thousand pounds if you were to make it a human equivalent. The reason why this is important is now that larva becomes a good alternative to feeding fish. It's going to get them different proteins and maybe even some iron. And it's also a good source for the chickens and other animals. So you can literally harvest this larva and allow some to pupate and become flies, and then you replicate that, and it increases, you know, there's exponential growth that occurs. And so we're working on a project. Terry's been working on that for a while to get it going, and that way we'll have other food sources. So we have to buy less to feed the fish and feed the chickens, all that sort of stuff. So there you have it. That's the whole farm. That was about a half an hour to do that. But there's a lot going on here. There are projects all the time. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If there's anything that you want to see more of, just let us know. If there's questions you have about any of the projects that you're seeing here, also let me know. I can do a blog post. I can resource you with some of the foundational reading and literature on these projects. And yeah, now I have to get back to my garden bed because it's garden bed time. Thank you guys for watching. Love you all, and peace out.